Ah, Frankie Valley and the boys, the Jersey boys. I'll tell you, that was a wonderful play if you got to see it back in the day. Fantastic. Welcome, everybody. It is Hump Day. It is Wednesday. So glad to see everybody here. I trust you are all doing well. Welcome. Speak favor over your lives, which means, of course, you're empowered to prosper. Yeah, I really dig the Four Seasons. They are fantastic. Music moves your soul, then you have to have that eclectic taste. Music does move my soul. So anyway, I got a sense that, if the angels, if you believe in that construct, dug us so much, man, could you imagine what they did with rock and roll? Wow. I mean, think about it. Don't think rock and roll existed 2,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. I mean, maybe they had their style of rock, but what we know they didn't have was, what we call modern day axes, the lead guitar, electric, and yeah. Woo! I'm sure they had harmonizing. I mean, I'm sure they, you know, hung around the old watering hole and sung in three-part harmony. But in any case, so how is everybody? So good to see everyone. Welcome. Boy, it's been an interesting week. Um, yeah, just a lot going on. So it's so good to see ya. Who's all out there? Robert V, how you doing, brother? Good to see you. Again, I tell you, I really, really missed Saturday night, but hey, I'm learning to move things and, haven't been able to move the complete construct yet, like Neo. But hey, we're working hard at it all the time. David Barry, how are you doing? How are the kids? How's everything over there in the UK? Hello, Woke Dealer. How are you? Johnson, good to see you. John Price, hello, Alien Believers. Ariel, good to see you. Chelsea, let's see. This is my story. I like that handle. James, how you doing, buddy? Grandpa Brian, 420. What's up? Living above. I am doing exceptional today, living above, I have to say. I truly am. Always reaching new heights. It's amazing. Hey, Kent, what's up, brother? Deborah, good to see you. Zigzagzilla, hello, what's up? Haven't seen you in a while. Mr. Floyd, Joe Sapien, good to see you. Lots of people, man. I mean, woo, doing good. Divine Empress, how are you? Lost in Space, Balanca, good to see you as well. Susie Q, how's everything in there in the UK as well? Let's see, Mike, hello, hello. David Castle, greetings, much love to you, brother. Elderberry, saw you earlier. How you doing? Isby, what's up? Jeff, Alan, good to see you. So, El Grupo, good to see you. Hey, Cass, much love to you, darling. So good to see everybody. So, I'm gonna tell you what, this book, I'm marking it up. It is, let me just tell you this. Of all the books I've read, and I've read a couple, this one gives the most, what I would call, true scientific evidence that what we call death is really the birth. It's the best way to put it. I mean, it's not death. I mean, I guess it's death in the construct that over everything here is in decay, which means that the other side would have to be the opposite. But then again, you've got the philosophy that, well, but out of the decay, Wayne, comes new life. I'm hearing the Moody Blues, Nights in White Satin. you know, but yeah. So I got to go. It's still the trap is that when you think and believe that this is what reality is, I think that's really the trap. Just my opinion. But anyway, this is a freaking fantastic book. That's all I got to tell you. It's yeah. So I have been following, give me a chance here. I don't know how many of you follow the events taking place up in Iceland, but I have. I've followed this from day one. And I want to show y'all, since this is kind of the oddities, volcanoes are living entities. There's no doubt about it. So this is the one up at Gildedauer. So I thought these were interesting yesterday because I was looking at this this live feed, and wow, there was this incredible rainbow clouds over this volcano, and got some screenshots of it, and it was quite beautiful. Lasted for several hours. It's where the sun is at, and I guess just the way that it was hitting the light, but that is just far out. I mean, look at the pastel colors in there. It's just quite beautiful. You folks up in Iceland, you have a beautiful country. So someone went up in an airplane and went over this volcano, and you can see where the rift is, where there was, this one was like these. In fact, I think it was the smallest of these. These were the first three, and then these just stopped. And then this one began to grow. And this one is really interesting. I saw some things on here and went, wow. Number one, it's not a round center. It's oblong. It looked like there for a while. It looks like there was this separate vent that was opening, and then there was this huge explosion. Gutentag, check out his channel. He actually was there and captured it. And then for like 2-3 hours, this thing, there was this billowing, this huge black smoke. But there's something else going on with this volcano. It's alive. It's alive. Yeah, check it out. It's not this round conclave. It's very distorted. It's pumping out a hell of a lot of lava, but this thing is apparently also looks to me to be really unstable. I just find these things fascinating. You know, Lynn and I got married in Hawaii, and we actually, rented a helicopter and went up on the big one they have there, and the recently erupted 2 years ago. And they're quite fascinating. They are. I've always been intrigued by volcanoes, and you can just see there's this chute just running right out of this thing. And by the way, this is, I believe, I want to make sure I have this right. I think this is like 1,300 feet. And there was an idiot, about 3 weeks ago, that actually got up around the base of this volcano. Idiot. Do you know where that idiot was from? Denver, Colorado. Yeah. Could have killed himself. I mean, lava, you don't walk on recent lava fields. But look at this. It's very clear that this thing's got a huge freaking crack in it. And if it ever shelves, into the abyss, I mean, that they say that this thing goes right down to the magma, and it's a very interesting, but that to me looks like trouble down the road, and you can see it even more well defined here. And then it's got this huge crack coming down here, and I'm thinking, if this thing was to actually like cave in or something, I mean, you'd have a lava tsunami. But it's very clear that I don't think that this is going to stay up. Look at that. I mean, it's not like it's a little crack. I think they broke it. They broke the damn volcano. And if this is 1,300 feet, that's the equivalency of 130 stories. That's a big skyscraper. And it's all filled with hot molten lava. It's a good thing this is out in the middle of nowhere, although it seems to be heading. Here's even more. You can just see that these cracks are like really, and you can see smoke coming out of them. I mean, I'm going, that can't be good. And you see this one coming down here? Huge fracture. So if it's fractured up here on top and fractured down here going down, well, wait a minute. I don't know. And then this is just, you know, if you follow this, I have, it's quite fascinating when you see the breadth and the magnitude of how much lava. This mountain was a big mountain at one time, not anymore. Check that out. Again, there's that fracture. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's much more, and you can just see the lava fields. They're just filling up these valleys right and left, as they would say. Beautiful country. There we go. So anyway, for what it's worth, I find them fascinating. It's nature. It's primordial. Volcanoes, I mean, to me, you always think, at least I do, associate volcanoes with, you know, it's truly the rebirth cycle of the earth. You know, pumping out this molten rock that is dangerous to humans. It's poisonous gas and sulfur and all sorts of other good stuff. So anyway, check it out there. I find it interesting. So what else happening? Huh. A lot of people say something about, you know, Yellowstone. I kind of look at, I don't know, when you start seeing, I guess, Northern California, Oregon, and Washington, and up through British Columbia, up around Nina's territory, I think when those ancient sleeping giants awake, yeah, that's all I can say. I think. So I've had more requests of people wanting to see more of the weirdness in time and document in the calendar. And I thought, well, this is kind of like a holiday week for myself, and which is kind of cool. So, hey, Kaz, what's up? Hey, Gaia, what's going on? Eddie Van Halen. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Just reading in the chat room. We are surrounded. Yeah. Okay. Someone said, John, David Barry, that's an interesting giant anuses. I mean, that one just conjures up all sorts of images, you know, Earth being a living organism. Yeah, I don't know. Where are you from? I'm from the ass end of the whole world. Yeah, where's that? We live on next to a volcano. Much love to you, Cass. Hey, Balanka. Yeah, please hit the like button. There we go. Well, and even the spirits are saying, yeah, any calderas being born out there? That's a good question. Don't know. Yellowstone's a big caldera. I know that is, but that's kind of old. Anyway, so let's get right into this. This is a fun document. It is. I mean, because it tells a lot of different history that, so I think we actually got as far as Flavius Josephus, you know, and I gave you the whole background on this dude. And, you know, he was a narcissist. I mean, he was a self-proclaimed historian. I mean, if you're living with the Roman emperor, Vespasian. Who are you gonna argue with? And go, no, you're not. You'll have the Victorian Guard come knocking on your door, like, you bad mouthing about Josephus over there. So anyway, he did have a pretty good history on it. I mean, the cat was, that whole area of Judea, and there was this purge of documents. Supposedly, this cat here, got the inside scoop. Who knows? The Romans were much like the Nazis, much like the United States. Russia's the same way, China. Anything to do with ancient documents. I mean, the real stuff, the whole Iraqi war was a false flag event. I didn't care if we were going to be in there for 10 years. What they got out was so much more valuable. You could put 5 billion lives as the cost, and that would have been just fine. They'd have paid it with you and I. But anyway, he describes the giants as being bodies so large and countenances so entirely different from other men that they were surprising to the sight. In other words, you kind of would pee your pants, if not soil them, and terrible to the hearing. I can only imagine what the vocal cords of a being, let's just say 30 feet. I mean, that would mean and it imply that they would have vocal cords of about 12 inches. And with the lung capacity that they were able to inhale and expunge out of, I bet that was a pretty frightening sound. I don't know what it would sounded like, but that would have been bloody bad. I mean, have you heard any of the Bigfoot recordings, the real ones, the authentic ones? Those creatures kind of, I think, gives an idea of what we'd be dealing with. Anyway, and he adds that in his day, the bones of the giants were still on display. I imagine the Romans had them. I mean, why not? Nebuchadnezzar, Babylonian, Mesopotamian, they were around during the Sumerians. Yeah, they were definitely around during the Egyptians. Some say they're still around today. So there's Josephus. Let's see. We talked about the cave, that if you ever went in front of this cave, you were not going to be coming back. The Greek philosopher Strawberry said this cat was 63 BC to 24 AD. So, yeah, he had a pretty good lifespan. Wasn't very long back then. It's not very long today. Recorded that many animals who entered the cave never emerged back. Also, people who went past the mouth of the cave never returned. Vortex, food, I don't know. They said only sorcerers in the ancient times who had apparently made an alliance with the gods of the underworld and would be able to enter and would emerge glowing in a reddish hue. It was really interesting when we studied about King Og and the ruler of the underworld, Ma, and what Ma looked like. It's very possible that the giants, I don't think that they were extinct. We know that they weren't. Even though you have the stories, which everyone thinks is true. I mean, when are we going to grow up? The book of Genesis is as much a fairy tale as it is legend. I'll leave that. Key of Solomon, book of incantations, of invoking demons. Again, the whole construct of demons here is what? Are demons what? Opposed to what? God? But which God? What? It's so we didn't have demons in the Old Testament. We had evil spirits. but they were never called demons. And as you know, I covered that is actually part of the God spell. Because if the construct exists, then we have a whole set of new gods that have come in. My evidence is, who the hell is Father? I don't know who Father is. Do you? Where is this Father? I mean, I don't get it. Damn sure isn't, Yahweh, the Elohim. Anyway, I digress. Let's see. Made the comment on the fact of the Golden Dawn. I think that, and David Barry, I know you're listening. It'd be interesting to get your take on this. I think you're going to be on tomorrow, I think, right? Or is it Friday? Tell me for sure. I've lost my calendar on this. I actually had it written down. It was like, okay. But I do believe it is tomorrow. So it's one of the things about the Golden Dawn is that it's so heavily influenced by the Kabbalah, which is really Hebrew. And then that takes you then, which God are we talking about? Are we talking about the Hebrew God? And then this is where I contend that the whole Golden Dawn and that whole point of, Crowley and John Dee, that their magic was corrupted. Because if you have connections back to an ancient Hebraic deity, well, that's ridiculous, because the world had many deities that were stronger than Yahweh, but yet everything seems to go back there, and that's the problem. Anyway, David will have good. I know we're going to talk about, I think, some of the, what I call the more interesting aspects of Magick. And, talking about the Kabbalah, talking about the Golden Dawn, talking about Hermetics, it's interesting. Let's see, the first century pagan philosopher Apollonius of Tyana was said to have transported himself instantaneously to Ephesus to treat sufferers from the plague. How many of you know about Ephesus? You can actually go there today. They still have the ruins, and a little history of Ephesus. It's where Paul wrote the book of Ephesians. Ephesus was a cosmopolitan city. It was on the trading route of the Silk Road. It was what we would call, I think, a very liberated society. They had the amphitheater in the middle of the city, which was really interesting because right next to the amphitheater, they had a Jewish synagogue. But anyway, yeah, it's quite fascinating to see how this city was, in their day, very modern. But anyway, teleportation, there you go. The year 46, according to the Masonic tradition, Ormus started an order in Alexandria having the rose cross as symbol. And what do we know about Alexandria? We know a lot about Alexandria. Origins, one of the founding fathers of Christianity, we know his story with the Liber Lilith, that it was after he read the Liber Lilith, he basically kind of went cuckoo. Yeah, went a little nuts. How many of you know what he did? I can't see in the chat room, but I'm just curious. How many know what Origins did in the public square in the city of Alexandria? He castrated himself. Apparently, he couldn't handle Lilith. Most men can't, but anyway, and Philo, that's where he was. He was Alexandrian, one of the ruling families. In fact, they had the triad. You had the Alexandrians, you had the Flavians, And then you had the Herodians, Herod, Alexander and the families, and of course, you know, Rome. And from that, the great three religions were born. Moving on. By the way, in the year 60, a ship was seen speeding across the Scottish night sky. 64, the disastrous fire sweeps through Rome. We know what Nero blames it on the Christians. Persecutions of both Christians and Jews erupts. Tradition has it that Peter was crucified during the Neronic persecutions and buried, eventually under the site of the present altar of St. Peter's Church. So the story goes. The year 70, May 21st, Flavius Josephus, the Jewish War book, on the May 21st of May, a demonic phantom of incredible size, for before the sunset there appeared in the air over the whole country chariots and armed troops coursing through the clouds and surrounding the cities. Didn't read that in history, did you? No, neither did I. But I do know what happened in 69 and 70. How many of you know? Who did Flavius Vespasian? What was his number one heir to the throne? Titus. And what did Titus do? In the year 69, burnt Jerusalem down. Basically murdered, and if you depend on, if, you know, that's, Josephus says nearly 2 million people were burned in the city. Who knows? Anyway, that I wonder if what we were seeing there was those UFOs. What star system were they from? Because, you know, that's that kind of energy being released, that transcends the planes. So the year 79, when a comet appeared, astrologers wonder if it would mean the death of Vespasian. Vespasian made fun of it, but he in fact did die. And there's Vespasian. And I'll just say this. In all of my Bible studies for nearly 5 decades, the one thing we never studied was actual history. Because if we had of, we would have known this guy really well. That guy's Jesus Christ, by the way. True. The miracles you read and what have you, this guy. It's amazing what history has done, but you can find this out yourself. Let's see. Medieval reporter Conrad Wolfhart, remember when we talked about him, was in Scotland. Wondrous flames were seen in the sky over the Caldon Woods, all one winter night. Everywhere the air burned, and many nights when the weather was serene, a ship was seen in the air moving fast. Year 98, again from our reporter, at sunset, a burning shield passed over the sky at Rome. It came sparkling from the west. Hero of Alexandria devises a primitive steam engine in the year 100. That's odd. We didn't really see the advent until the Industrial Revolution, did we? Let's see. The Gnostic of Alexandria, Balazadis, supposed to have had written 24 commentaries on the Gospels, wherein he claimed that Jesus did not die on the cross and that a substitute, Simon the Cyrene, took his place. The Quran held the same argument in the 7th century. Interesting. Simon the Magnus of Menandar, Valentinus, and others developed Gnostic religious doctrines of esoteric knowledge, illumination. That's what esoteric means, by the way. Magus, was a contemporary of Jesus and had been called his most dangerous rival. Pope Clement I called him God's left hand and the counterpart of St. Paul. He found wisdom in a brothel in Tyre and preached a Gnostic philosophy summed up in his work, The Root of All. He has later been called the founder of all Gnostic teachings. Wow. Are you telling me that they would have, what, erased history to where there was just one primarily doctrine being preached? Surely they never had any rivals. I mean, who do they think they are? Microsoft? I mean, come on. Let's go on. Let's see. Year 150. Roman mythism, I think that's Matherism, competes with Christianity. Mithraism, yeah. The Yellow Turban Society subdues northern China. The Triad cult formed in opposition. Well, if there's only one that exists today, such as Christianity, that means Mithraism did not, or did it? Mount Tuabo in New Zealand erupts. Romans record 3 days of global darkness. No. 3rd century. This way was long and as if enveloped in darkness, explains Chu Yan, a Chinese poet of the 3rd century BC. Chinese tradition narrates the extraordinary adventures of Hu, and I think that's Yai, an engineer of the Emperor Yahoo. Is that Yahoo? I am not good in Chinese. So who decided 4,300 years ago to go to the moon with a celestial bird. In the course of the flight, the bird indicated to the traveler the exact movements of the rising, the apogee, and the setting of the sun. Who thereafter explained that he sailed up the current of luminous air. Could this current have been the exhaust of a rocket? He no longer perceived the rotary movement of the sun, and narrator points out, effectively, contemporary astronauts have noted that in space, it is not possible to discern the diurnal passage of the sun. And what did the Chinese engineer observe on the moon? He saw an horizon which appeared frozen. To protect himself from the glacial air, he built the palace of the great cold. His wife, Cheng Go, left to join him on the satellite, which she described as a luminous sphere, brilliant as glass, of an enormous size and very cold. The year 200, the first book of the Kabbalah, the Sefer Yazira, compiled. 216, Life of Mani, the illuminator who founded Mancharism based on the ideas of Judaism, Christianity, Zoroastrianism, and Gnosticism. 252 to 712, the Holy Grail of the Last Supper kept in Aragon, Spain, according to Catholic tradition. Emperor Constantine and his army all beheld the heavens, luminous cross. We've talked about this. He claimed to have been shown a cross on the sun as a sign from Christ that he would triumph over Maxentius. Anyway, Emperor Constantine, the founder of Christianity, they say. He turned Christianity into a form of government. After all, governments come and go. Religions are a little bit more, yeah, got stay power. Constantine visits the shrine at Delphi and leaves with a prized collection of bronze statuary. It's odd. Why would Constantine go to the Delphi, the oracle, if he was converted in, anyway? He is one of a long line of Roman plunderers of this sacred site. In spite of this, the oracle continues to reside at Delphi. 325, the Council of Nicaea, in which Christianity begins to rigify. The Book of Enoch, having been suppressed by the church, was declared the apocryphal by St. Jerome, Bishop of Caesarea, sets out the list of New Testament books still in use today. He also lists books which he considers doubtful, such as the Acts of Paul, Revelation of Peter, the Gospels of Peter, Thomas, Matthias, and many other ancient books. Constantine orders Eubarus to have 50 Bibles made of velium. The amount of velium required would have taken the skins of about 4,500 animals. Some of these Bibles still exist today in Leipzig, St. Catherine's Monastery in the Sinai, in London, in the British Museum. Interesting. So you throw out the other books. I mean, is it possible that those other books may have had something that countered the state approved doctrine? Don't know. Just saying. It's odd, though, isn't it? And the Book of Enoch. You've ever read it? It is free. In fact, Maria sent me, I saw your email, and we'll get it out there if anyone wants it. It's an interesting read. There's St. Jerome. Yeah. This cat, I'll continue. Let's see. The first major witch hunt in modern sense occurred by order of the Roman Emperor Valerian. The beginnings of the society called Hung, or the Brotherhood of Heaven and Earth, containing many Masonic traditions. The year 393. Strange lights were seen in the sky in the days of Emperor Theodosius. On a sudden and bright globe appeared at the midnight and shone brilliantly near the day star Venus. I just got a question. How'd they know it was midnight? They didn't have clocks back then. They had sundials. Yeah, I get that. I don't know. Maybe the moon was up there. I don't know. This globe shone little less brilliantly than the planet, and little by little, a great number of other glowing orbs drew near the first globe. The spectacle was like a swarm of bees flying around the beekeeper, and the light of these orbs was as if they were dashing violently against each other. They blended together into one awful flame and bodied forth to the eye as a horrible two-edged sword. The strange globe, which was first seen, now appeared like the pommel to a handle, and all the little orbs fused with the first shone as brilliantly as the first globe. Well, that had to be a weird sight. 398. A thing like a burning globe presenting a sword shone brilliantly in the sky over Istanbul. It seemed almost to touch the earth from the zenith. Such a thing was never recorded to have been seen before by man. 5th century. The Pistis stone depicts what might be the Loch Ness monster. Circa 400 years. Copies of the Manilin, the true picture of the face of Christ, alleged to have been given to King Abgar of the Mesopotamia by Christ himself, spread over the Christian world. Well, he ain't no white dude, that's for sure. So, interesting. Well, there you go. For 57, the Archangel Michael, patron saint of grocers and victor over the fiery dragon of Revelations, descended with alarming instantaneity of the St. Angelo, a small town in the boot of Italy. Legend has it that Michael landed with such force as to leave an imprint in the rocks, an event celebrated in the sanctuary that still stands. That Christian monument is on the site of a much older Greek shrine, an entrance to the underworld. Well, that just invokes a whole lot of stuff on that one. The year 457, a report from Brittany in northern France, a blazing thing like a globe was seen in the sky. Its size was immense, and on its beam hung a ball of fire like a dragon, out of whose mouth proceeded two beams, one of which stretched beyond France, and the other reached towards Ireland, the end of which ended in fire like rays. That's a pretty big UFO. That sounds like a big old mothership, huh? 458. There is a text preserved in a Buddhist monastery in China which tells of some monks who voyaged 7,000 miles east to a new continent. The text describes them making landfall on a coast with mountains and rivers. California? Then traveling inland to the east, where they discovered a large canyon with stratified colors and a great river at the bottom, the Grand Canyon. Then they traveled south over a great desert with strange trees that have many thorns, cactus, and find a civilization far to the south. Some stone carvings with oriental features have been discovered among the civilizations of South and Central America, and the similarities between Chinese dragon sculptures and the Central American dragon sculptures are striking. 552, Council of Constantinople declares reincarnation to be heresy. You see how this works? And so you just add 1,000 years to that, and then it becomes gospel. 565, Genesis of the Loch Ness Monster. According to a written account, Saint Columba, a Christian missionary to Scotland, saved a swimmer from the monster by shouting, "Think not to go further. Touch not thou that man. Quick, go back." In obedience to the saint, the creature fled. Ever since then, there have been vague accounts of something in the loch. Could have been he just had a loud voice and, like most wild animals, turned and ran. Just saying. 570. Noisy meteors also followed tremendous thunderstorms in Italy in 570. In the Constantinople in 611, with fatal incidences of ball lightning. On both occasions, the inhabitants were visited by two humanoid creatures and were affected with a spat of deformed bursts for months afterwards. Radiation sickness? 584, the Bishop of Tours in France is perplexed by curious domes and golden globes that raced across the sky. I'm damn sure they didn't have any 747s back in that day. Circa 610, Muhammad began to receive the Quran from the angel Gabriel while meditating at night in a cave outside Mecca. The revelation continued for 23 years. The year 611, noisy meters again. The year 650, one night in the hot season in India, a man named Harswami and his new wife were lying on the roof of the summer house. The veil on the woman's face slipped off in the night while a demigod was seated in his car overhead. His gaze suddenly fell upon her. The demigod lowered the car and placed her asleep within. She was never seen again, as told by Harswami, translated by the Hindu from Hindu by J. Platts. Those UFOs. I think they're UAPs now. 664, at the monastery at Barking near Thames, England, a great light appeared in the sky at night and shone over nuns who were singing in the burial ground. Why would nuns be singing in a cemetery? Anyway, they reported that it lifted up, moved to the other side of the monastery, and then ascended into the night sky. Priest said the light surpassed the brightness of day. 670, estimated date of carvings of stone statues found on Easter Island. The Frankish bishop Arcuff of Pergamenes claims to have seen the shroud of Jesus in Palestine. 671, boy, active year of the UFOs. Flaming objects was seen flying to north from many countries in Japan, 1 year before the War of the Jinsen. The year 673 to 735, life of the Venerable Bede, the greatest scholar of the Saxon England, whose ecclesiastical history of England contained many occult and unexplained occurrences. 730, the year Al-Ali Asif, Necromancerem, a book supposed to have been written by the black wizard Abdul al-Hazred, who lived in Sinai in Yemen. The book, which has been translated by John Dee, is also known as Ali Azif or the Whispers of Demons. Today, most agree that Necromancon is the compilation of spells, recipes, and other texts taken from older grimoires as the Key of Solomon or the Kitab of the Yuhad from Arabi, which was among the famous magic library of Ashurbanipal. Ashurbanipal. Charles Martel defeated the Muslims with the aid of a holy lance, the spear that pierced Christ's side. The year 747, quite a big year. China, a huge flame-breathing dragons were reported seen in the skies, accompanied by men in airships. Well, that had to be a hell of a sight. 751, the true Dark Age began in earnest. The Elven Holocaust was initiated and would run its course for another 1,000 years until, in England at least, the witchcraft laws were repealed in 736. North of the border in Scotland, however, the persecution of witches in the 1700s was at its fiercest until the end of the century. Isn't it interesting how they correlate here that the entrance of the Dark Ages was the beginning of the persecution of magic? And for over 1,000 years, anyone who read, thought, practiced, wrote the occult were deemed to be of Satan, witchcraft, Lucifer, and dealt with appropriately, huh? 763, Meath County. While King Domnall Mock Morchat, was that Morchata, attended the fair at Tailtime. Ships were seen in the air. Like, how do you, I mean, back then there was no mistaking. There was something that man wasn't behind. Let's see, 772, the Holy Vim, a secret society founded by Charlemagne, who wrote the codes and statutes of the Holy Secret Tribunal of free courts and free judges in Westphalia for this order. Wow, that's a mouthful. It always bugs me when I hear that one cat is responsible, let's say, for a doctrine, a belief, whatever. You know, I don't know about you, but I always try to get into their heads like, all right, so what's this dude? I mean, back then, I mean, life was no bowl of cherries. I mean, yeah, even if he had royalty, it, you know, a little more comfortable, but still, these people were obsessed. I mean, how do you go and write the code of statutes of the Holy Secret Tribunal of free courts and free judges? Wow. Let's see. (776) from the Chronicle of W.R. Drake. At Charlemagne's castle in Sigburg, as the Saxons were laying siege to the castle, those watching outside in that place, of whom many still live to this very day, they beheld the likeness of two large shields, reddish in color, in motion above the church. And when the pagans who were outside saw this sign, they were once thrown into confusion and terrified with fear, and began to flee from the castle. St. Gregory of Tours, a historian, wrote of Charlemagne's. Alcuin, the secretary and biographer of Charlemagne, and author of the Vita Corol, states in a 32nd chapter of his work that in 810, when he was on his way from Aachen, he saw a large spear descended like lightning from the sky. It traveled from east to west and was so bright it made the monarch's horse rear up, so that Charlemagne fell and injured himself severely. Weird. The year 813, according to legend, the grave of Jacob was found at the site where the cathedral of Santiago del Compostela later was built. 820, the Great Pyramid of Giza was broken into for the first time. It was done by an Arab team on the orders of the Caliph Ma'mun. In the year 840, as he was coming out of the cathedral at Lyons, France, Archbishop Opperbard saw a mob stoning 3 men and a woman alleged to have been seen alighting from an aerial ship. That's how humans are, man. You ain't with our tribe, man. We're going to stone your ass. Yeah. The year 858, an evil spirit threw stones and made the walls shake in a small farmhouse. This was the first recorded poltergeist case. Okay. Let's see. I'm just trying to get some of the more interesting ones. Folks, our history is anything but what we've been told. The year 900, beginning of the Bogomils of Bulgaria, the Manchurian sect, and the roots of Cathari. The last great quake in the Seattle area, a magnitude 7.4, which caused the land to heave by 20 feet when only a few scattered tribes lived nearby. Several still tell tales of a fearsome snake with antlers, a creature best avoided because when seen, the earth shook and all witness turned to stone. Where have we read that before? The year 919, an object like a flaming torch was seen in the sky in Hungary, together with spears which flew over, giving out a brighter light than the stars. I'm just trying to, I think we could do this for hours. I just find this fascinating. Let's see, the year 930, the first legislation against witchcraft and banning of Sunday trade by King Atheiston. There you go. August 15th, the mandolin, a picture of Christ not made by human hands, arrived at the Church of Our Lady of the Blasphemy in Constantinople. Well, if it wasn't made by human hands, who was it? So are we saying that these spirits then are not human, but it appears that, folks, we've been visited quite a bit. Let's see, 11th century, some writers claim that a group known as the Illuminated Ones were founded by Joachim of Flora in the 11th century and taught a primitive, supposedly Christian doctrine of poverty and equality. Year 1000, approximate founding of the Zir cult by Sufi Sheikh Adi in Iraq, the Adobe of learning active in Cairo, spread of the Cathar Manchaism throughout Europe. (1034), a rare typeset book from 493 contains what may be the earliest pictorial representation of a UFO. The book Liber Chronicarium described a strange fiery spear seen in Europe soaring through the sky in a straight course from south to east and then veering towards the setting sun. The illustration accompanying the account shows a cigar-shaped form haloed by flames sailing through the blue sky over a green rolling countryside. This may be the first work that actually contains actual illustrations of UFOs. Wow. Such a weird history. And people call us strange. Wow, where has the time gone? All right. Well, obviously, we have still quite a few years in this document, but nevertheless, holy cow, Batman. I mean, why is it such a mystery today that, it's considered to be, well, it's being accepted, but it's quite obvious through our whole existence. Somebody has been flying above us. I mean, that's the only way I can look at it. And that tells me that if they're here and have been here for thousands of years, in which we have records of something up there, beings coming down, humans trying to stone them, what else? I mean, I don't think they're doing star travel just back and forth. They have to have bases here. They have to have places. I mean, that's what I think. So, all right. KT says, can we all pray for some things to go right? The fog be lifted so we can see the right, turn the negative into positive, and the magic love bubble around Earth. I'm all for that, KT. All for that. Absolutely the truth. Paul Joe, it is. It's really interesting. I don't know. I sit here and I go, so why do we find number one, you know, the topic of magic, witches, wizards, so offensive? You know, it's obvious. It's been here. Magic, the practice of magic, has been here before any religion was even conceived. But yet, it's, taboo. No. I want to do a video on why we aren't raising children witches. Why aren't we teaching children witchcraft? Why aren't we teaching them the elementals? Why aren't we teaching them an alternative to the current mindset that society calls normalcy? We should begin, if they're bringing this crazy CRT thing forward, then we should demand that they start teaching magic. Let's start bringing the old books out. Let's start teaching them about the spirits. The cure for racism is to ask yourself the question is, what color is your spirit? What color is a spirit? I don't know. But apparently, if we all have one, why aren't we teaching that? Why? Well, because we leave that for the religious zealots. Yeah, it's the problem. All right, I'm going to shut up before Hogwarts. Exactly, Jack Dream. We should be doing that. J. Rowling, she was right. She really was a visionary. We've got to bring this back. We should be having graduation ceremonies of new witches, new warlocks that are going to go out and get involved in business, going to get out involved in politics, and begin to bring the magic into the practices of these disciplines. Well, that would be a remarkable place, wouldn't it be? Thank you, Deborah. Because we can teach the magic of love, the magic of peace, the magic of reconciliation, the magic of saying we are each special. Anyway. Well, thank you. Thank you, Lost in Space. All right, folks. Tune in tomorrow. Going to have David Barry on, and I think it's going to be fun. I really enjoy when David and I get together, and he is well-versed, well-read, and let's start talking. Think about it. We're going to get, by the way, I've got a great panel for the group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I got 7 on can sexuality and spirituality coexist? Maybe is that they hijacked our sexuality and replaced it with this limited one-dimensional construct of what spirituality is. And when you do that, you just cut the freaking roots out and, nothing's going to grow. All right. Yes, Andrea James, we love David Barry. He is a lot of fun and you learn a lot. All right. Thanks, everyone, for watching. And it's not for everybody, but hey, for the rest of us who looked at this, and it goes on. It's a 440-page document, and he just painstakingly goes to show you the visitors. Hell, they're not visitors. By now, they're legal residents. That's all I can say. So, all right.